This man never imagined that ever since he'd gained the favor of various deities, his home would become an inviolable sacred domain. If anyone showed up with ill intentions, they'd be pulled into a strange illusory realm where there was nothing but a shrine and an eerie withered tree. Time itself stopped flowing in this place, and no matter which direction you ran, you'd only end up spinning in circles. It wouldn't take long before you went mad. Only those with sincere hearts could leave. This Onmyoji, who had coveted the power of James's written words, found himself trapped here endlessly until he finally broke down and sincerely apologized to the shrine before him. Only then did the mountain god finally let him go. He thought at least several days had passed, but to his surprise, his assistant told him they'd only just arrived. Hearing this, he didn't dare linger a moment longer and just wanted to get far away from this place as quickly as possible. But James was completely oblivious to all this. To him, it was just the time it took to take a shower. Unfortunately, his house only had a shower. When the mountain god heard that James really missed the hot springs back home, he quietly made a mental note. The next day when James woke up, he suddenly discovered there was now a hot spring at his house and realized the mountain god had created it. But by now, James was used to this sort of thing in his eyes. The mountain god was omnipotent. Not long after soaking in the hot spring, the mountain god had a craving for some sweets, so James went out shopping with him. Along the way, he deliberately observed people's reactions and noticed they seemed unable to see the mountain god. However, some people could smell a scent of mountain forests. These were people with devout hearts. Midway through, they passed a tea bowl shop, so James decided to buy the mountain god a bowl befitting his status, along with a comfortable cushion.
我は別に座布団など。おお、良き塩梅。
小さいですよね。特注で作りましょう。
Before long, they arrived at the dessert shop, but to James's surprise, the shop owner looked quite healthy. He'd been to this place many times before, and the owner had always been very frail. It turned out the shop owner had recently made an offering to the mountain god. Because of his sincere devotion, the mountain god had used his power to restore the owner's health. While it couldn't grant him immortality, it at least ensured he'd be free from physical ailments until his final days. After returning home, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was the Kirin that James had rescued not long ago. Because of the language barrier, the mountain god's familiar volunteered to translate. They learned he'd come to repay the favor. Thanks to James, he'd been able to regain his true self and shake off the corruption of evil spirits. As repayment, he intended to make James the ruler of half the world. But unfortunately, James wasn't interested, which completely caught him off guard. In his view, humans were supposedly obsessed with fighting over land and resources. Just then, the wind god and thunder god happened to visit, so James invited them to soak in the hot spring. But he suddenly noticed they seemed to have grown larger. Upon asking, he learned it was because James's respect had strengthened their existence. As a gesture of reciprocity, they decided to treat James to some sashimi. With a snap of the wind god's fingers, the fish was evenly divided into several portions and immediately plated. This was the wind magic James was familiar with. They taught it to him last time, but by comparison, when he used it, it was more like a gentle breeze.